Hello, thank you again for taking the time to take a look at Tassomai's latest data drop presentation. This one is about the class engagement sheet, which I had mentioned on the other presentation. If you were watching the one on leaderboards, yeah, this is the other one. So we're going to just run through the sheet, how it works, what it's for, and then sort of a bit of orientation on it, and take you through how you can set it up to suit your school's needs. And I'll try and preempt or address any kind of commonly asked questions about it. So we've previously done a presentation, or separately done a presentation on our leaderboards, which look a bit like that, showing you how students in a given class have been using it in terms of daily goal achievement or accuracy and so forth. This presentation is on this much bigger, scarier, more colourful looking sheet. And this is more aimed at you know, the teacher in charge, the head of department or the SLT or RSL, who is looking at the usage of the technology across the school and seeing where the hotspots are of good usage and poor usage. So we're just going to run through how that works. We think this is a really exciting, powerful piece of kit. I will, without further ado, go on into it. This is our mock-up sort of version of it. Now, you'll see it looks very similar. Probably I did a screenshot of the same set of data, probably. As I said, the first thing is to sort of talk through the kind of how it works and sort of orientation of this. The idea behind this is to show you, as I say, where in the school students are engaging really well with Tassomai and doing lots of daily goals, and where they're not doing so well and less engaged. So, right, how it works first of all. Every week, if we've launched this data drop for you, every week our database in the early hours of Monday morning will query its data tables and find out for you how many students in each class in your school did 0 daily goals, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 daily goals. So we'll find out just that number really. And then we can aggregate, and then we drop that into a hidden sheet in the background. And then we can aggregate that data, present it to you in this more colourful form. So somewhere in the background, in a hidden sheet back here, is the kind of raw data. You can go exploring that if you like, but this is where the work has done to pull it together. So orientation on this sheet. First of all, every row here is a class. So this is a Year 11 class called 11P2, and it's an English class. And there is an 11P2 in maths, just to point out that just because classes sometimes have the same name in different subjects, we're not going to mix up or double count their data. So each row is a unique class name and subject in the year group. And in fact, in this school, we run through years 9, 10, and 11. So you can see them all listed here. The big uber columns are weeks. As you can see, this is the week of the 5th of October and so on. WC as in week commencing. So this sheet runs all the way up to the most recent week. I'm recording this on the 9th, I'm going to say, or 10th of December. And yeah, so we actually do have a week commencing 30th of November that's not displaying on here. So we'll look into why that is in a minute. But you've got weeks running up to this present point. And then, crucially, sort of the most important thing to know is what all these colours mean. This tells you in 11P1 for English, there were 11 students who did a good number of daily goals, and enough to constitute engaged in our book, 11. And then there were 4 who did some lower number of daily goals, that more than none, but not as much as we wanted them to do, and then 1 student who didn't do any daily goals. So that total of 16 students there is split up, and then accompanying it, fairly obviously, the percentages. So 11 sixteenths, 69%, 4 sixteenths, even I can do that, 25%, and 1 16th is 6%. You can see they're rounded to whole numbers because we're not pedants and we like it to look nice. So we've got that kind of general presentation, and that's a nicely engaged class. I think anyone would be pretty pleased with that if of 16 students, 11 had done, you know, their daily goals of 4 daily goals homework, and 4 had gone some other way and only 1 hadn't done his homework. So that's a really nice engaged class, and accordingly, if I take my highlight off, you can see it's nice and green here. So that brings me on to the colour scheme. As you would, I would hope, expect you to hope, the higher the percentage of engaged students, it is done on the percentage obviously, The higher the number of percentage of engaged students, the greener it is. So that's quite nice, that's 69%, but actually you get into really good green at the 70-75%, so a really highly engaged class here. So high percentage engagement, green. Likewise, low percentage inactivity is also green, so here a 0% green. So there you have a nice kind of green stripe here. Now the middle bit is much harder to categorize. That's where, in this case, a very engaged class, that 30% is the sort of tail end of a high amount of engagement, so that's good news, and they get green for 30%. Just down here, this normally takes me not much longer to find, okay, just here is a very disengaged class, where most of the students haven't done anything, and those three who've done something are sort of the upward ramp of the other tail of the disengaged class. So that same 30% can be red here or green here. Basically, the colour scheme in the middle column is some kind of attempt to interpolate between the other two colours. That was quite hard to do, but it works, and it works visually for me at least. So there's your colour scheme. Good is green and not so good is red, pretty obviously. And in the middle column, it's really hard to tell you what's good or bad. It depends on the context, so I'm interpolating the colour. That's kind of it, really. The rest is just down to looking by eye. You know, if I zoom out, you can sort of see a little bit more of the school. I can see instantly, like there's a class. I think something getting in the way there. There's a class of 11P4 in maths who are just historically not using the program, and that might be a conversation I'd want to have with their teacher. What's going on in 11Q1 and 11P4 in maths? Whereas everywhere else is pretty good. Year 9 looks less engaged generally than Year 10, so you can read these things into it quite easily from the heat map you see. And this is sort of rubbish, made-up data, to be honest. But in real schools, we see these all the time. You'll get a massive red stripe down the middle here, which is, well, half-term. And if your half-term's 2 weeks, then accordingly you'll see that. And if your half-term runs over into a week, you'll see it kind of go orange and ramp up. So you can see the usage trends, and it's all kind of useful up to a point for that purpose. So I'm just going to zoom back in a little bit and take you through the how it works bit. So as I've said, the basics are that the database will write to this Google Sheet every Monday morning. You will be given access to your sheet. Just get in touch and ask for it, and we will issue it to you. And you'll be able to log into, or just click the link to that sheet whenever you want and see the latest data. And it will just update every week and add a new week's data. And it'll show you up to 8 weeks at a time. So far, so straightforward, really. It's not something you have to download or request each week. It's just there for you. Save it on your bookmarks, and you can just look whenever you want, and it will update automatically. But there are other bits to this. So how we define engaged, active, inactive, or what the consequences of it is, or of them are, is entirely up to you, and you can customize it. So as it says, settings, press plus here. This little plus will unlock a bunch of extra columns, and this is where you can have a nice play with it. First thing is to say here, that little link in this box, if you click on that, you can make a time in my calendar, and I will talk you through anything you've got problems with. If you've found something's broken or it's not doing what you want it to do, I'll take you through it and help, of course. So use that link and you can access my calendar. But otherwise, in general, right, I've seen what's gone wrong. But let's look at the date range first. Because as you could see me kind of struggling, there should be another week here, the 30th. Well, I've got this filled in and I shouldn't have. This is where you can adjust backwards in time. So if you want to see 10 weeks ago, you type in 10. I've got that with a 1 in it, so it's looking back 1 week in time. If I delete that, or if I put a 0, but delete is fine, and press enter, it's already doing it, in fact. It's already out of the 30th, but you see, hopefully you can see this thinking bar. This is a really slow sheet to behave. Colouring in takes a long time for Google Sheets, and it's processing a lot of data. So whenever you make a change, you want to give it a little while to populate with new data, and you'll suddenly see all these things suddenly tumble through. There they go. So the data is pulling through, and now you've got it up to date. So, phew, that's a relief. So we've got, as I say, it's the 10th of December when I'm recording this, so that was the last complete week that started on the 30th and ended on the sort of 5th or 6th of December. Next Monday, a new week will drop in, and all of the other weeks will shift back 1. Now you could show fewer weeks. 8 is the maximum, so that's that, I'm afraid. But you could show 4 weeks if you wanted to. Just type 4, and a load of columns will disappear and turn white, and you'll get just a shorter view. So you might want that, for example, if you wanted to show, if it was limited to the size of your display and you wanted to show this on a board, you might want to show 5 weeks because that's what you can fit on your TV and reception. So you can set that up. Once you've made your settings, hit that minus button, it'll disappear and you have a nicely presentable screen. Last things to say are on the definition of engaged and active. Well, here we define engaged as being 4, 5, 6 or 7, 4 or more daily goals. If I change that to 3, then it will recategorize all of these different classes, and instead of being 6 and 6 and 1, or instead of being 5, 6 and 6 and 1, it might change. You should still have 13 students in this form, but a couple will jump the boundary from active to engaged because they did 3. There's a little bit of an error here. This shouldn't say 3, it should say between 1 and 2, just to reassure you that this number, which matches, it's not going to double count. There you go. So now we've got that updated. It's not going to double count that 3. It's just an error on my part, and it's too late for me to fix it. So you can just roll your eyes at me, I'm afraid. But sometime in the future, I'll redo this sheet and I'll solve that problem. You can also change your definitions here. So you might not be in a school where you're saying not using Tassomai is a detention offence. So you could redefine that, put in your own word, and you'll see it just changes the name on the display there. So these beige cells are always where you adjust it. Last thing to show you is the colour pattern. So the problem we have here is at different schools there are different definitions of good usage. So if I defined what is high engagement, medium and low engagement, and defined what was green or red about that, you would find in your school that perhaps your whole sheet, is going to come through in a second, your whole sheet would be uniformly green or uniformly red because you're a school that's saying it's homework every week and you have a really strong homework policy, or you might be a school that says it's voluntary, it's extra, and then the sheet will look all red. And that's not really very helpful to anyone. There you go, my sheet is just like pretty much all green and not very useful to differentiate. So you do have different settings for greenness and redness. Lenient obviously is going to be more green, medium and strict, and these are sort of preset numbers. But what I showed you in the first place and what I recommend you use is this median adjusted. And that basically is looking at engagement across the whole school, across all the classes, and say the median level of engagement is whatever it is, and then we're going to set green and red either side of that, so that when you look at the whole sheet, if I minimize this again, you'll see, I'll zoom out a bit as well, you'll see when this adjusts that you get a pretty even mix, here it comes, of green and amber and red and all the shades in between, so that you can really judge where the sort of good usage is. So we've got kind of some big pushes here in this week in these classes and so on. I just think that's more useful, and it's less presumptuous on our part to sort of say in your school this is acceptable or this is not acceptable. But if you want it customized to a particular level, you can get in touch with me and I'll fix that up for you, no problem at all. So I think that sort of concludes our presentation really on the sheet. There was another presentation on this, the leaderboards. So we'll be sharing both of these things, and so wherever this ends up, the other one will be next door. So please take a look at that, because this is much more useful for day-to-day use and rewarding good usage. But this is one we've been looking at today. This is class engagement. Get in touch with us to launch it, and we'll send you links to both, and you'll be up and running. Any questions, any problems, get in touch. You may, for example, find that you break that sheet. I should have said at the time, if you sort this by like most engaged and go, sort from top to bottom, the whole sheet will break. So don't do that. You can undo. But you can filter. So you could say, I'm only interested in science. There you go. This is really well planned, isn't it? Because I've left this till after I was about to say goodbye. But you could filter and just show science, for example, and there you are, you get those stripes. But just don't sort the sheet because it breaks the formulas. So if you have anything like that happens where something breaks or if something's not clear, get in touch with me anytime, and anything is easily repairable or replaceable or fixable, and I'm happy to make customizations and try and help you get the most out of this to support good usage in your school. So I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks very much for your time and attention. Appreciate you taking a look at it, and I'd love to hear your feedback on this. Thanks so much, and I will take my leave. Thank you. Bye-bye.